Hi everyone, it's art teacher Bethany Teal, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about coloring with alcohol markers. I also have 2 free printables linked in the description, both the ink drawing uncolored here for you to try coloring on, and a copy of the colored ink drawing that I color in this video, so you can print both of those out and then try coloring right along with me. I'll be demonstrating using this 48 color sets. This set was sent to me, and I will put a link in the description of this video to ways to purchase this set once I receive that from the company. There are many brands of alcohol markers, and they come in various price points. Some of the best quality alcohol markers are by the Copic brand, but there are also Blick Studio brush markers and Ohuhu brush markers that are also good budget buys. Alcohol markers come with various tips. I think the most common seen tips are the brush tips and the chisel. That is what I have in my set here that I'll be using, but also you can find many that have a bullet tip and also a fine tip. Some are dual, some are single. Regardless of the brand of alcohol markers you use, it is important to know that alcohol markers will bleed through thin paper. You can print my Tulip printable on regular copy paper, but just be sure to fold that paper in half and place it on a surface that you don't care about, because the color will completely go through your first layer of copy paper and even onto the second. And this is why in general it is best to use heavier paper or cardstock for your alcohol marker drawings. I'm using Strathmore Bristol board here, which I love for its smooth surface. Now, I also want to point out that I've created a swatch sheet of all 48 colors that are in this set, and I highly recommend that you do that with whatever brand of alcohol markers you use, because it doesn't matter what color name is on the marker, you want to know how that color will look on paper. If you have never used alcohol markers before, take some time as well to just practice creating different line qualities using the tips of your markers. With a chisel, you can create many different sizes of lines, and with a brush tip, you can create different weights going from thick to thin, and you can work on varying the pressure to create different sizes of lines. I would also recommend you practice blending 2 or more similar colors together. All you need to do is place one color down and then place a similar color right next to it and overlapping it while the ink is wet. This will create a beautiful, smooth gradation of color. All right, now and for the remainder of this video, I'm going to color my tulip, and I want to invite you to join along with me. So I'm going to begin with the stem and the leaf. So I first gathered all of the shades of green and yellow that I can see in the picture of the tulip. Now, I used a photograph for my reference, but I've provided you a copy of my actually fully colored drawing so that you can actually see what can be done with the markers themselves. Alcohol markers blend best when the ink is wet, so I'm going to work on just one area at a time. I'm going to complete the entire coloring of the stem before moving on to the leaf. Now, when coloring the stem, what I'm doing is beginning with the darker color on the darker side of the stem, the side that I have the cross hatching and hatching on, and I'm using like a medium green for that. And then on the lighter side, I used a pale yellow. Then, while both of these colors were wet, I overlapped them with a more medium yellow or yellow-green. So that is one way to begin a nice color blend, is using a lighter color on one side, darker on the other, and then overlapping and blending with a more medium shade in the middle. Now, I want to point out here that while originally I pulled just the warm greens and yellows to use for the stem and the leaf, I also am using a little bit of purple in here to shade with. So when choosing colors, I do want to encourage you to think for yourself and also, really look with your eyes and observe and choose the colors that you feel are going to work best for you. All right, well now I'm going to start working on the leaf, and I want to point out that generally it is recommended to work lightest to darkest in terms of the order of placing your colors down on the paper. And I am breaking that rule right now. I'm beginning with the darker colors because I really know I want a strong shadow in certain areas, and so I am working on the inside part that is in shadow and making sure that I, really get that nice and dark before I add in my lighter colors. But when I work on other areas of the leaf, like the area that is receiving a little bit more light, like this area right here I'm touching on, I'm going to place the lighter colors down first there. I like to also blend with the lighter colors. So this pale yellow that I'm using, I'm going to use that also to blend the inside of the leaf that's in shadow. A lot of marker sets will come with a blender, like a colorless blender, and I honestly don't use those that much. I prefer to blend with the lightest color that I'm using to apply color to the paper. Finally, for the leaf, I'm using a little bit of a dark green just to add some directional lines to show some texture of the leaf itself. These kind of details are best to do last so that they don't bleed at all and blend out into the color. Now, speaking of bleeding and blending, sometimes when coloring you'll make a mistake. I went outside my lines a little bit, and I'm going to show you how just using a liner pen, a black liner pen, I am just going to clean up the area that I, let the marker come out of a bit. So even if you're working on a printable image like the one that I drew here for you, you can still touch up my drawing. If you go outside the lines, you can fix that right up using a black fine line marker. But let's move on now to coloring the most beautiful part of this picture, the tulip flower itself. So for this, I am pulling some reds, some corals, pinks, even a lavender, and a very light beige and yellow. So I don't want you to worry about what specific colors I'm using based on the name from my set, because you should use the colors that are matching based on a color swatch that you create. So you need to test out your markers and see what colors they actually produce on paper, and then choose the ones that best fit. I am beginning the flower using the darkest color first again. I know that is not really the recommended way to start, and I will go light to dark later on when working on different parts of the petals, but to begin, I am adding the darkest red into the bottom area of the tulip flowers, and then I'm going to begin working a little bit more petal to petal, blending from that area that's dark up into the middle area of the petal, and then I'm going to work on the lightest part at the top, in some cases last. Just remember, the alcohol markers, they do dry fairly quickly and they dry permanently, so you want to work on an area while the area is still wet. So that's why you don't just want to skip around and do everything that's one color at the same time. Feel free to add in some colors that are a little different than what I use. I am working with a little bit of purple in my tulip flower as well, so that I can just give more of a variation in the petals. I think it's really pretty to emphasize a bit of that purple, even though it does maybe make it a little bit less natural. I kind of like that aspect of it. So, play around though. You can even try different color schemes than what I've used. In general, I think, when thinking about what a tulip looks like, besides using photographs, you might just also want to think about where would the light be hitting the petals. So generally the tops of the petals are receiving more light, so those areas you either could leave white at first or go in with your lightest color and color all those light parts first, so that you don't end up getting too much color on the paper and then not being able to lighten it back up. Tulips are a really great flower to use as a reference with alcohol markers, especially if you're a beginner, because a lot of times I think tulip petals have some lines in them of colors. You can see them, the lines kind of going from the base of the petal where the stem is up towards the tip of the petal. And you know, this way, if you don't get a completely smooth blend, having some of those lines and transitions of colors showing will still look good. It'll still look like a real tulip because we see some of those lines in the flower itself. Now, if you're watching this and you're just really watching me color right now and you don't actually own any alcohol markers yourself, let me just tell you a little bit about them. Really, alcohol markers are just pigments suspended in alcohol. If you're wondering if they are smelly, they generally should have a smell that is kind of mild, but similar to rubbing alcohol. They do not smell as strong as markers like Sharpie brand permanent markers. It's not like that though. They are really excellent for blending. When you color with them, if you're coloring, you can create nice flat washes of color. It doesn't show streaks like typical water soluble markers do. So that is a really great quality that they have, and a reason why illustrators and architects really enjoy using them. They dry quickly and permanently. A good quality alcohol marker will not smudge. You won't have to worry about, you know, the color moving if you touch it too quickly. And they're also very smooth and vivid. The color is intense. You can easily layer and blend with them. A lot of times the various tip sizes and in the case of many brands, the dual ended tips really make it easy to work with them too, and to achieve different kinds of line qualities and textures with just one tool, one marker. But like with all art mediums, it does take practice to really master this material. You just have to use them. Maybe starting with just some simple coloring sheets, coloring things like this drawing here that I've provided for you might give you the opportunity just to practice blending, practice different kinds of lines, and see what you can do with the material. And then from there, I would hope that you would want to start drawing your own things and then using the alcohol markers to color those in. Now, if you colored along with me, hopefully now you have something that you can feel good about. You could take that paper and fold it in half. You could even use this to create a card for somebody. All right, well, thank you for watching this video. And again, check the description for links to the products that I've used and discussed in this video, and also to get those printables so that you can color along with me and have some fun with alcohol markers. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.